Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
In the cleans function, you have something called as a read database. If you have a procedure or if you have a function written, which will give you a single output, single attribute output, or let's say these are 5 attributes. Single output means a single record with maximum 5 attributes. Then this particular read database can be utilized. There are lots and lots of functionalities. For cleans function, this is utilized to standardize. Because if you can go ahead and do string function, then you will see all these things over here. If you want to go ahead and convert a value, if you have to go ahead and check something, if it is available or not. If you have to go ahead and put up a default value, if you have to find out if that particular value is existing in the system, then you have to state that. All those things are mix and merge of all the functions which are being given over here to us. You can see over here, there are certain number of noise filters. And these noise filters are then utilized to company. I think geographic or company. These are cleans lists which are being there, and these are the graph functions which utilize those cleans list functions in them. And see, these are functions which are there. If you go into City is over here. This is what City is. It is already giving you all these names. It is a list. We don't go ahead and create anything new over here. If you go ahead and see my cleans list, that was very simple. It was just checking if the string is having test or not. If it's a test, then it was just replacing the test to example. That's it. It was just doing that. These are all you can say as OR conditions. If you are finding this or that, or that, or that, or all, or in any of those match types, if you go ahead and edit this, you will see either it's an exact match or a regular expression or a SQL match. Anything which is there, then you'll just state this particular value to an output string. You can replace that. Whereas description and registry ID. These two are graph functions description. I'm just utilizing the date updated date. This particular description, it was just like a concatenation with a date which was being shifted. If the date is coming in a different format, I just have to go ahead and put up a format which I needed to convert. Anything if I just go ahead and write. I'll just go ahead and write anything over here. and I just provide the date, any date, let's say over here 8. It will be converting this date to the day of the year, month and year. Over here, capital double D's means the date of the year. Small d means the date of month. All these formats are the same as the format from why it got changed. That is being done over here. It's a simple function which is there in string, which is concatenate. Then over here I utilize a format date function which is there in data conversion. These things will come with experience, that which function we will be utilizing. Now in registry ID, there are various functions and conditions and all which I have utilized. You can see I have utilized the read database, that registry ID, in this particular table. I am returning this attribute. The data is shifted from over here and releasing the cache, returning this attribute. If I am finding the data or not, and accordingly I am sending the data or the error message. How to create this? If I go ahead and create the same function again, what is the first thing which I always go ahead and do is I always split the entire function into steps. A stepwise procedure and an algorithm you can set. What needs to be done? What needs to be checked? If you go ahead and split your entire requirement into multiple steps, you can create any function over here. The function's endpoint is it will go ahead and give you as many output as you want, but only single value for every output attribute. It does not have any idea about multiple values which will be coming in. It will only hold a single value. That's the limitation of cleans function. Am I clear? Let's say this particular registry ID part. What I did. What was the main requirement? The main requirement was if registry ID exists, then error. Always would be a requirement where there would be. If not, then what? If it is, then what? If the condition is true, then what you have to send? If the condition is false, then what? This is what a requirement will end up with. My requirement says If the registry IDs exist, then true at true, the user should get an error stating XYZ whatever the error we want to reduce. If it is false, then let the data to pass and to get updated. For that, first step is to check if the data is or the value in that particular attribute. For this one, we have two different ways to go ahead and put it user. Is this we can go ahead and create a required attribute. If we create a required attribute in the provisioning tool directly, that means it will always have the attribute and I don't have to check that the value was there or not. If you are not going with that, then my first step becomes, if this, we are either going with required attribute or not. If I'm going, let's say, without a requirement, then first thing I have to check is string is if, because empty checks your null, your length. If there is any white space on, which means it's empty. How we can go ahead and check that? You can see over here in the logic functions. There is a string empty. Null or empty, which means its length is 0, not white space. Both the things are checked. After checking, there would be two outcomes. There would be, it can be, which means it is null or day. Or length is basically false means the data is there. This becomes my condition. Over here, I have done in a different way, which is the about choice as required. When there is any condition statements, there are two conditions and according to the condition, I have to go ahead and do any kind of activity. Then there is always a condition which I have to use. Before going into condition, add a condition. How this true and false I will be getting. I will be getting by formatting the Boolean value because condition will only take string values. And this will send me a Boolean output. It does not send me a string output. If you go over here, you can see a value is in Boolean. I have to choose format Boolean. Then these value becomes my true and false if it is true. Then I'll just go ahead send an error stating value is empty. But if it is false, then I have to check to read it in. Because I need to check if it is existing or not. Then I'll go ahead and read it in database using miscellaneous read database function. I'll send the table name. I'll send the attribute name. I'll send the data which is coming in. And then I'll be stating that you always go ahead and clear the cache before you go ahead and get me the value for that. And what will be my return column? If the record was found or not. I'm just checking if it exists or not. I don't want the value because the value is what I'm sending in. I'll be good with a record form. But the other use case is if I have to go ahead and select any other value from that particular entity. I can do that as well. This transfer function. It will directly update in the table for particular attribute. It will give you the value. It's up to you if you are using in mapping. Then it will go ahead, find that particular part and it will update that particular value. According to the cleans function, if you are utilizing provisioning tool, it will go ahead and set that particular value where the output is being. Map. It doesn't store the value or it doesn't set the value. It will go ahead and find the value for you. Later on, it will go ahead. The other MDM process will help you in updating the value for that particular attribute. It's just main. Dependency or main identity is to standardize or to go ahead and do any kind of validation we want. Validation means in this update table. Validation, you get the function. Basically in ETL, we go ahead and create expression function. Expression function is what we do multiple validations over there. We can go ahead and look up something we can find. If it is equal to, if there is, we have to go ahead and concat something. You can think this particular thing as an expression. How do we create it? We can go ahead. First thing is we go ahead and user library is something that we go ahead. Once we go ahead and create the user library, I just added a custom over there. I just added it name and just click. This will be added. Then later on we just go ahead and use. Because a regular expression, you can see it over here as well. You have a function already. Basically, there is no point in creating a regular expression function from cleans functions. Either you go ahead and create a cleans list or you create a graph function. Cleans list will be look like this particular part. And you have to just go ahead and add what you need to search in a particular string and what you will be replacing the string with. With what type? If you say regular expression and your string is, let's say test, and let's say it would be test2. String is already present. We'll just say XYZ. We'll give it C. Regular expression. And it will be. What will be the regular expression? A pattern input is what will be the test string. In the test search string, we'll put the regular expression. Now I'm just using. Over here as A. And over here I will say test. I think that is something dollar would do for anything which is there. These are big and I have to do a small one as well. You can see all of them are there and I think that is with dollar. It is not with dollar. Slash dollar. I think not this one. I am forgetting what all things are there. For the entire word, was it just this parenthesis? I'm not sure how it works. Anyways, any type of pattern. The search string will become the pattern. And output string will get accordingly. If I go ahead and do a SQL match, I have to put a SQL statement over here. SQL, that is what it goes ahead and does for us. We can go ahead and import as well, but that will be imported by some database connection. Cleans function. And the graph function will look like this, but in start it would be a input and output. Basically, the limitation is one value per output. You'll get this. How to add any attribute in the input. Just double click or click edit or edit from over here. Output the same way. Add a function over here and you'll see all the list over here. Whatever you want to go ahead and use even the customs which you created. You can go ahead and utilize that same. It would be a black box. You don't know what is inside. It pretty much looks clean. You can use your own. You can utilize any function which is there. How to add a constant. Add a constant. Or over from over here. How to add condition over here or the last one. In condition, when we add a condition, there would be case values. Over here, whatever we are writing. Let's say we were talking about true and false. I'll just go ahead and say true. And I go ahead add a false. You can see this one and this one. There is a difference. One is having a bold. That's a default if any of the value which is coming other than true or false. It will go into true. If we have to have a default, we'll say default that becomes a value. This is default. What we have to do if there is any other value, whatever the case values we are going with. Then what will be over here? Any inputs or any change in outputs, we can go over here and we can edit and we can add more or less accordingly. If you have to add a function condition, a condition inside a condition, you can add a condition as well. It is something that you can do in a nested format. There are a condition and inside this condition there is again a condition. This is the parent, this is the child and this is the grandchild. It is up to you how you want to go ahead and utilize the functionality. Just remember, it's all about logic and how you go ahead and distribute your entire function into steps. Your entire cleans function depends on how you are stepping your problem into multiple steps. The only limitation, one var output attribute. It does not hold multiple values. Wherever there is a multiple attribute output, multiple value per output, you need your cleans function becomes unuseful. It is not at all useful for you. In that situation, if you are using the validation for provisioning tool basically for UI purpose, then your external calls and comes into play. If you want to utilize it for your batch, then your user exit comes into play. Or else you can use Java function library as well. Which you have to create using over here. Then you have to select the file parameters, library name, and on and on. That is how you will be adding a Java cleans function. For adding an IDQ library, library visual URL service and code, your IDQ mappings can be published as a web service also. This is for that particular purpose. There are tons of requirements which comes in for cleans functions. For standardization, for checking like this kind of functionality, this will be coming in for a lot of purpose. This error message, how it will be showcased to UI. Remember this particular output. This output we will be discussing when we will be going with provisioning tool as well. That how that particular error will be showcased. We will be seeing these things. There is no hard and fast tool for this. This is all the way related with what your requirement is for standardization. And what is the limitation? You can utilize n number of functions over here in the table name. I'm now using the table name. You can utilize your SQL statement. Would be something like table name. The column if you are going ahead and running a function, then select whatever attribute you will be just going ahead and pushing. And the table name becomes your function name or how you go ahead and run a function. You just utilize the same thing. It is something like select attribute name, table name, lookup column name equals to data. It is select where equals to where. There is no like over here. It's always an exact match. There is no function you can utilize like we go ahead and do a max. You cannot utilize max min or any function. You cannot count. Those are certain number of things which is related over here. There are multiple utilizations. Like in my earlier experience, I have done like this kind of functionality where plus certain number of standardization for gender software status, which was coming different way from different sources. We standardize those. We utilize cleans list for certain number of searching the strings into multiple places if that was there and we were replacing it. We had one particular requirement where we have to choose, see if all the child records were present where the types were multiple different way. I was going ahead and putting this where condition in a separate segments like the type. Selecting one type over at one place, other type at other. Database and on, and every time I was using the record found. Then later on, I was using the logic functions for other purposes to format them, and I was using like other functionalities over here to go ahead and to find out if these are and conditions like the value was true for all the values. If the types are all, there are not. If not, then that particular child record needs to be created. Those kind of requirements have gone through and created. It all depends on how we can go ahead and divide our problem into very simple, small questions. This is what cleans function is all about. Ajay, whatever cleans functions we are creating here or adding here, all these will be utilized in the mapping. Like this will be in the mapping. If I go ahead, let's say I just want to see if RTI was existing or not. I can just go ahead add a function over here. I'll just add the registry ID other than registry ID. It will go ahead and check for RTI. For that particular purpose, I just go ahead and add it over here. I'm just adding it in another attribute. And just utilize this. In this particular way, we go ahead and utilize the cleans function for standardization purpose. We don't utilize for rejecting from the mapping because if you reject from mapping, it will abort your data, abort your process. We only standardize the data. Over here, it never go ahead and reject because in cleans function you'll see rejections as well. In the miscellaneous reject, we never utilize it. in the mapping. But we utilize this function for other purposes, like for the UI side. If you have to go ahead and reject some values. This is what all about cleans function. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.